Another Supreme Court victory for the White House, the court clearing the way for Trump to overhaul the federal government from the inside out. The ruling allows the president's executive order to slash government, downsize agencies, and purge unelected officials. It should save taxpayers billions. Now, for their part, DOJ saying that their cuts have saved almost $200 billion so far. And meanwhile, the Senate considering a $9 billion rescissions package. So, Batya, this looks like, we've kind of gone from looking at a big, beautiful bill and pro-growth to now sort of tackling the spending side of things. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's all turning up Trump, right? He's having a really good week. A lot of the things that the liberals were counting on to sort of stymie him in his attempt to make good on his promise to the American people are falling short. I don't know if you guys saw this, but particularly relevant to me is you don't have to take your shoes off when you go through the airport anymore. How amazing is that? Obviously, a smaller thing relative to these massive layoffs. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think really, really bothers working class people is that if they are not good at their jobs, they get fired. But there's an entire unelected bureaucracy whose job, they see themselves, they've told us this, is to get in the way of a president who is trying to make good on his promises to the American people, and they just get to keep working and working and working. That level of waste, I think, really bothers people who are taxpayers who don't feel that they have a lot left over in the bank at the end of the month. So I think this was a great ruling.
I want to, Jackie and Brian, focus on the Supreme Court side of things before Jerry will focus more on the DOJ and the cutting of things. Jackie, you've been looking at some of the recent wins and the way that this can help further the agenda.
Absolutely. So this Supreme Court win once again blocks the power of these district court judges. The last time we saw this was in the birthright citizenship case that essentially did not rule on that, but ruled on the fact that the district court judges do not have the right to block Trump with respect to implementing his policies. And this has to do specifically with the DOJ cuts. There was one dissenting opinion. It was Ketanji Brown Jackson. We have some quotes from her here, but these are actually not the ones that really stunned me. What stunned me was that she went after she was defending the district court judges once again and basically saying that they have sort of the pulse of what's going on and they should be granted more authority. The Constitution doesn't grant them that authority, and that is why she is the lone wolf in this particular situation. At the end of the day, it comes down to the executive branch doing things and district court judges just trying to get in the way to stall the whole process. So this is a huge win because every time you have one of these cases that sort of rules even more on that issue, even if not the nuances, it strengthens it. It gives it more legs for when he is trying to do something, to have it not be blocked or to move more quickly through the courts, even if they do try to block him.
By the way, something that I think maybe your viewers are not aware of is, we keep hearing from the liberals there's a constitutional crisis happening here, especially around the immigration judges and the immigration decisions. I don't know if people realize that immigration judges actually work for not the judicial branch.
They're not in the branch.
The executive branch. They work for the president.
Correct.
So, of course, it is his mandate to decide what happens in that area of the judicial system. They're not entitled to the same due process.
What's very scary is they're actually trying to almost rewrite the Constitution through case law. And the more, if you had a different court that was looking at these cases and was ruling differently, you would very much shape how, through precedent, how things happen in this country. It is very important for the people who voted for Donald Trump on Supreme Court issues alone, for the protection of the Constitution and the institution as a country. These cases are very, very monumental.
Well, Brian, your thoughts?
Yeah, and I'm not the lawyer, the constitutional law guy here, but when you mentioned how Ketanji Brown Jackson talked about the lower court, she actually kind of revealed her hand. What she thinks of the court as sort of a super legislature that gets to make laws, right? And this is why Amy Coney Barrett's smackdown of her was so right on, because what Amy Coney Barrett said is, Ketanji, you're complaining about an imperial executive, but what you really want to do is sideline the executive and create an imperial judiciary, and that is exactly right. That's why progressives always talk about packing the court. When they don't like the court, they want to make a bigger court and have more of their people so that court can be the imperial power in the whole system. It is a rewrite of the Constitution, and it's a rewrite to advantage whatever branch progressives happen to control at that time. And they're going after the judiciary right now.
Especially when you get worried about some are elected and others are not elected. And so you want more power with people who are elected by the people. This is a government for the people, by the people. Jerry, your final thoughts?
So we were going to talk a little bit about Doge here, which I was a big fan of. But of course, Trump and Elon Musk are in a big fight right now. Trump saying that, you know, if I had done Doge, I would have done it a little differently. So clearly these two are at loggerheads right now. They do note that the EPA and this takedown of federal employees has lost or they have laid off 1,300 employees. I'm saying it's working. Doge is working. It's a good thing. It's something we really needed to see happen. And it's just another idea that originally came from Donald Trump, right? And, you know.
They will do anything to keep the waste in the system. I mean, it's just absolutely stunning.
With the waste, Batya, on the final thoughts, wanted to pivot as well to something in the intro that you could be looking at maybe another rescissions package, maybe this year, maybe next year. Senator Ron Johnson said that one reason why he ended up voting yes for the big, beautiful bill is because he was given assurances that more cuts would be coming on the way, sort of hinting that maybe we could do another rescissions package. Maybe there's another bill that they could tackle to really fine tune some of the spending cuts. A lot of people, I think, on the ground felt like that's what they really voted for. Your thoughts?
Well, I have no problem with cutting waste and fraud within the government, but I do think that there are a lot of people who voted Republican for the first time in their lives because the president promised that there would not be any cuts to health care. I think that the Republicans now, they are the party of the working class. The majority of working class Americans voted for Donald Trump, but there's still this sort of muscle memory within the GOP to where they're still sort of trying to get those tax cuts for the rich, not realizing that most rich people now are Democrats, and their base are people who are struggling, often people who are struggling who really need that health care.
Well put.
So.
That's very well.
Well, and they, you know, people are saying Republicans are for tax cuts for the rich, but if you actually drill into the data and you look at this bill, the guys who get great tax cuts are small, medium businesses. They're not rich, they're productive.
I
They
totally
employ
support tax cuts for
Americans.
those people, but, you know, again, 79% of Americans support raising taxes just on the rich in order to fund things like health care for people who work
Such a
really
massive
hard.
misconception, though, with respect to those people do pay their fair share. They actually pay the majority
I wouldn't
already.
call it fair share, yeah, but I'm just saying, you know, 79% of Americans. You know?
I know they believe that. I know they believe that.
Conversation we will continue.